Alright guys, hope you're doing well. So I thought maybe a good idea is when I can't jump on video chat to do some sort of musings and just talk, and you can listen via your earphones, and I can do it while I'm driving and stuff. I mean, it's dark now and I'm driving home, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to chat about something I've been thinking about recently. So the topic is loneliness, and I did a video on this about 3 years ago now, probably longer, 4 years ago. I'd like to talk about that and see where the journey takes us. So sorry for the background noise, I'm driving in the camper van. But loneliness is definitely something that I've experienced, and it's definitely something that's hard to understand, and it's hard to put into context like what it actually is, because I've realised loneliness is not a simple word. When you say loneliness, you generally think it's just that you're not around people, when in reality what I've realised is it's much more deeper than that. And this is the reason why we're living today in a loneliness pandemic, because logic would say, well, there's 7 billion people on the planet, we probably get to see people on a daily basis, but more and more people are feeling lonely. We're more connected on the internet, we're more connected on Messenger, WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever, but yet more people are lonely. And I grappled with this problem for many years, to be honest, and sort of figured out along the way what loneliness is and how to quench it in the 21st century. So the first sort of feelings of loneliness I used to get was when I was ill before the program. The loneliness stemmed from derealization and brain fog and not being connected to the world, and just not knowing what life was all about. That gave me a lot of loneliness, but I was so ill, I kind of learned, I suppose it was a psychological thing, I just learned to be in my own space, so I kind of just got through stuff, even though I was feeling pretty bad. And then I sort of started the program, and the loneliness was still there. I was sort of dealing with this new feelings, new healing improvements, feeling worse at times, feeling more tired, and loneliness was still there of trying to reintegrate myself into the world. And then I moved to Thailand and I tackled loneliness from being quite isolated. I didn't have many friends, so that was actually more of an isolation situation. So it moved from feeling lonely because I was detached from the world. Even though I was around loads of people at university, I was still lonely because I couldn't connect to people. It's really important to be able to connect to people to quench loneliness. That's one aspect. And then I went to Thailand, and I was lonely because I was isolated. So that's another type of loneliness, of just not being around people. And I thought naively that if I just went away and healed myself, I would be happy and I would not feel lonely. And much to my dismay, I didn't feel good. Felt terrible. So I came back from Thailand, went home to live with my parents. That did help my loneliness a little bit, and that's where I think family or close relations or healthy partners is really, really helpful when it comes to tackling loneliness. At the end of the day, we lived as, in my opinion, hunter-gatherers for many, many thousands of years in communities, and we learn over time that our family keeps us safe. And loneliness comes when you detach yourself from that community vibe and family mindset, and that's one aspect of loneliness. So when I lived with my parents, I felt much better, but I still felt lonely, and that loneliness was more to do with mental wavelengths. At this point, I'd been into the program for about 3 years, and my view of the world was much different from other people around me. So I still felt lonely, and this is another type of loneliness, is the loneliness of not being on the same wavelength as other people. That makes you lonely because you can't share things with people, you can't share your thoughts, you can't share what you're feeling, you can't share any of this because your mental wavelength is different to those around you. So I was still lonely. And then I ended up moving out of my mum's. I was in a relationship with a girl, which quenched my loneliness a little bit because I was in a romantic relationship. But I had to work, I didn't have any friends, I lived down in London, so I was lonely because I didn't have any friends. And I got lonely because the relationship drained me in some ways. So I was feeling lonely because I was again starting to feel not healthy. So loneliness crept in there because I started to detach myself a little bit. So this was frustrating because I thought being in a relationship would quench the whole loneliness problem, but I realised that it didn't. So anyway, cut a long story short, that relationship didn't work out too well. Well, it didn't work out in the end, and I moved. I went to Mexico and moved back from Mexico. Then I moved back with my parents a little bit, so that helped with the loneliness then, and I could heal myself again. And then I found a flat of my own, a place of my own. So loneliness crept in again because I was isolated. But I started to realise how important family is and how important sort of, close friends are. So that's why I decided to stay in my village. Home is where the heart is, and I think a lot of it's related to this feeling of detaching yourself from a community. So then I tried to find new friends, and this definitely helped with some loneliness because I ended up finding friends that were on my wavelength, which was amazing. I felt like I'd found my tribe, so to speak. So that definitely quenched a lot of loneliness. But I was still feeling lonely because I didn't really have a partner, and I tried. I had a couple of partners, and they, one of the problems in this world is that everyone's so individual, and some people are more left-wing minded, and some people are more right-wing minded. And I ended up finding someone on the surface that was good, but the values and morals were completely different. So, that brought on loneliness again, and my friends. I was in the New Age scene, and unfortunately the New Age scene is sometimes quite up in the air and ungrounded and yin, and there was always drama and problems, so I fell into loneliness again. So but basically what I'm trying to say is loneliness is such a complex, complicated thing. It doesn't surprise me one bit why loneliness is such a pandemic. So by this point I'd learned a lot about relationships, about the world, about loneliness, about how important it is to find people around you who think the same as you, how important it is to be near family and friends, and how important it is to find a partner who is on the same wavelength with you. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up finding a partner that was on the same wavelength as me, and I went through a lot of learning to figure out who the best person would be. And I can say now, after a long time, for the past 3 years, well, probably 2.5 years, I've not felt any type of loneliness. And the reason being is because I found a partner who's on my same wavelength, and there's no drama, so I'm not getting my energy drained. So that quenches loneliness. I live near my family and my close friends, even though we're not on the same wavelength too much. But that's sort of important. That quenches an element of loneliness. And also my friends, my immediate friends, my new friends that I managed to find, they are on the same wavelength as me. So our peers are helping me out. I think there's another loneliness which comes from working and giving and being of service. I was quite lonely actually being a practitioner full time, because aspect of loneliness. Now, sometimes I would think, why do I suffer from all this type of loneliness? And then I realised that actually the reason why is because this is something that everyone experiences. And if you think about it, when we used to live in tribes and we used to live as a community, all of these aspects of loneliness that I experienced would have been fulfilled by the tribe and the community that you lived in. The idea that you're constantly around sort of your friends and your family, that's one area quenched. The fact that you would be living with people on the same wavelength as you, they thought the same, they had the same values, they had the same beliefs, that's another element of loneliness quenched. The fact that every day when you used to go and work, whatever you used to do, you would go and work as a team with other people and you would help each other out and you would be able to bring your skills to the table. That's another element of loneliness quenched. And the fact that you would probably find a partner who would also think similar to you, who would have the same beliefs, values, etc., etc., you would probably find in this community sort of tribal aspect. Now, this is something that I, over the years, have had to sort of learn myself and integrate and quench all them aspects of loneliness from camaraderie in the workplace, to being in a healthy relationship, to at least being near my friends and family, and being around friends who have similar beliefs to me. And I realised that I'd quenched all of the different aspects of loneliness that would have been dealt with when we used to live as sort of nomadic tribes. So yeah, that's it. I've returned home now, so hopefully that's helped a lot of people. Loneliness is a big problem for people, and a lot of people these days experience one element of loneliness, and I'm pretty sure you probably will be able to tick off at least one of what I've just mentioned. And I feel very blessed at the moment to not feel any of that, because I've done the work, and hopefully I can relay that to you as well. So anyway, hope it helps, and I will speak to you all soon.